This is Greg Pruitt, formerly of the Cleveland Browns, and you're listening to The Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
And away we go. End of the week, wrapping it up, edition of the Sports Fix. And you know what? It's playoff time, baby. Playoff preview edition of the Sports Fix. As by the time we do this again, the playoffs will be underway. The Cavaliers will be on their way to, well, we'll talk here in a little bit. Wow, a little bit of a, did you guys hear me now? Little technical difficulty here, man. The microphone cutting in and out. Let me know if there's any more cutting in and out like that. I caught that one there. Anyways, as I said, getting rolling here. Cavaliers, they'll be rolling by the time we come back. We're going to look ahead to some playoffs here. We've got Indians getting back into it, but it's going to be mostly Cavaliers-centric today because the journey begins to what could, and I'm telling you, my gut says will be the first championship in Cleveland in quite some time, you guys. And as I said yesterday, for many, many people in the listening audience here, going to be their entire lifetime encompassed by that. Can the Cavaliers do that? I've got to say, this is the best I've felt. You know, yesterday we were talking. You got to agree with the statement Mike Brandenberry said. The best of all the teams, you go back to 95, maybe the Indians. And even then, as he said, maybe everybody was just so happy to be there. But when's the last time? We've had a lot of playoff teams. I mean, look, I know the jokes about Cleveland, but over the years, between the Cavs, the Browns, the Tribe, there's been a ton of playoff teams. There's been some good ones. There's been some teams that have had a shot. There's been teams that have come close. But how many times have you truly went into a playoff season feeling the way you do about a team like you do about these Cleveland Cavaliers? It can't be very many. Maybe at the peak of the Cavs in the back era with LeBron, the 66-win season, maybe. But even then, I think a lot of people looked over to the West and said there's still challenges over here that they may not be able to topple even if they get through the East. And they had enough trouble doing just that and getting through the East. That turned out to be much easier said than done. But now, I mean, look ahead. I mean, there's people, I mean, really, you can point to, and we'll get into all the looking ahead here in a little bit, but you can point to whoever you want. The Cavaliers are right there with anybody heading into this one. And I got to say, I agree with Mike Brandenberry. The best I've felt about a team heading in with true, legitimate championship aspirations in most of my lifetime. I don't know about you guys. Some of you guys have been doing this a bit longer than me. Let me know what you think, but it's going to be fun, and the fun begins on Sunday at the Q. We begin it today. We're going to do Cavaliers previews. We've got sportswriter extraordinaire Jonathan Knight joining us here in a little bit. He's going to be short, abbreviated conversation, but JK will be here with us talking some Cavs, all for Cleveland, baby, all for one. The signage is up all over. There's watch parties everywhere. It's going to be off the hook here in C-Town starting this weekend. And as we said, and we'll preview them all, a lot of great playoff basketball, not just Cleveland, but all over coming up here in the next couple of months. Jeff Gorman Normally, of course, Jeff from Indians and Browns 101.com. Normally, we'd be talking some Browns today, but not today. I mean, yeah, we'll talk a little bit. I know Johnny Manziel had a statement. I'll get into that a little bit later in the back end of the show. But we always put Jeff on special assignment during the Olympics, during some certain things. Jeff's on playoff duty today. He is digging out the scouting reports. Not just are we going to go position by position through the Cavs and the Celtics and dig into this first-round matchup for the Cavs, but we'll look around the entire NBA. We'll get some previews into all of those playoff matches coming up. We'll see what Jeff thinks, who's going to pull out of things, and we'll get into all of that with Jeff Gorman. Tribe back in action. Danny Salazar is going to join the Indians here for this series in Minnesota. A little bit of a twist on things. We'll talk about that, preview the series. Monsters, unfortunately, we're talking about beginnings. We're talking about endings when it comes to the Monsters. I'll get into the details later, but for all intents and purposes, their season ended last night, even though they have 2 games to play. But some very interesting Monsters Blue Jackets news coming. Something long overdue, in my opinion. We'll get into all of that. Let's roll. Let's get to doing it because we've got a abbreviated schedule, and I want to crack the phones open for you and make sure that we get some voices in here today. So let's do it. Pop the top on a playoff preview, championship, all you want to put them together. Edition of the Sports Fix. J-Rocc, Jerry Myers, that's me, the Big Daddy on the microphone. Thanking you guys for joining me and welcoming each and every one of you in every weekday live at noon. Maybe you're here every day. Maybe it's your first time joining us live across the Sports Fix radio network on Spreaker and Mixler and their respective digital and mobile applications. Maybe you're on TuneIn.com, one of the best places to listen to the site because just about any device they've ever made, you can listen to it on TuneIn.com, maybe our website, the home base. Never forget to visit and bookmark thesportsfix.net. All of those places to listen and enjoy the show live in real time. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the live audience as well. Cannot leave out the big bulk, the thousands of you guys around the world, all over the place, listening on digital demand, on demand, all over, 24/7 on iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider. On iTunes and Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, CarPlay, iPodder, all of the world of MP3, all of these places I find you guys listening to the show. Thank you so much for making up the Sports Fix universe. This is our thing, baby. We do it together, so be a part of the show. I see them ringing already. Phones are open, 216-539-7535. Now, we're going to be hit and miss on the phones, so if you can't get in live, leave your take on the hotline. I'll play it here during the show. What do you think? What's the prediction here for the Cavaliers playoff run? 216-539-7535, the number to call. Can't get through using your phone. A lot of you, so many of you guys listen on your phones. Use your social media to talk to us. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at the SportsFix CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at the SportsFix CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Sportswriter extraordinaire Jonathan Knight is on tap just about 11 minutes from now. That means I've got about a 5-6 minute window here. I'm going to stop talking. I've got plenty of time for me. I want to go to you. Caller, you guys are on the phones. We're going to it right now. I've got a few minutes. First up on the Sports Fix. Caller, you're there. What's happening?
Good morning, J-Rocc.
Good morning. This is my man Bruce. What's happening, buddy? How you feeling today?
I feel pretty good. I wish it was Sunday, but, hey.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I got to wait like everybody else.
Enough. Cannot get here fast enough, man.
Oh, I know. Ain't it? I just want to get it started, just kind of get it over with, And what do we need, 14 wins to win this whole thing?
No, it's 16. It's 4-4, baby. 16 wins gets you a championship.
Okay, I was a little bit off on my calculation, but let's hope I'm not off on my prediction. I see the Cavs and Golden State in 7.
Cavs and Golden State, Cavs win in 7, huh?
Right.
I got to tell you, I'm going to go against the grain, but I don't know that Golden State or Atlanta, I mean, obviously I think the Cavs, but both of the number ones, I'm not as high on them as many people may think. I know that the one thing that saves Atlanta is that the Cavs, by drawing the 2-3 matchup there in the second round, assuming both of them win, is you get that real tough Chicago matchup. And I knew that was going to end up, that's the one downfall, is because to me, That's your conference final right there. Those are your two best teams. I know Atlanta did what they did, but I'm still not buying Atlanta in the playoffs here, and I don't think that they're going to beat the Cavs. But, hey, I mean, the Cavs' path is tough. If they get beat down in a middle-round series with Chicago, Chicago's playoff tested and all that stuff, man, that's going to be a tough deal. But that could be a saving grace. I still think, again, Chicago's the toughest test in the East. I'm with you. But I'll tell you, I'm not totally with Golden State just tearing through the West. I know what they did in the regular season. I know how great they were, and I love Golden State, Splash City, all that stuff. I like watching how they play. They're a fun team to watch. I don't know how much that style is going to work in the playoffs on a game-to-game basis. They remind me of those Cavs teams that I was referring, that 2009, and I'm not saying, no, hey, listen, they've got higher caliber stars, trust me. I mean, it was LeBron and then a big drop-off with those Cavs teams. But still, I mean, as far as a lot of regular season success, a lot of blowouts, a lot of fun things, a fun team, but come playoffs, it changes a little bit, and I don't know that they get through a team like, say, the Spurs. I mean, how about that? It's the Spurs.
Well,
they do it every year.
I took the Spurs into consideration, and I just somehow I think Golden State can beat the Spurs, even though the Spurs have an easy schedule to start with.
Well, look what the Spurs did, though. The Spurs have a tough playoff berth because of the way they do it every year. Here they go. They just kind of meander their way, and everybody says, "Oh well, the Spurs. They did it last year, but they're not going to do it this year. Look, they're number 6. They're number 7. They're
right.
Done.
They're number 6.
And then they go, and then they go make their run in the playoffs, and they're like the last team standing. And that's what I feel about them this year. Plus, I think it's only fitting that this thing comes full circle with the Cavs and the Spurs. Something in my gut says the team that beat LeBron, that started the whole path to Miami, and then the team that beat him, that started the path back to Cleveland. Doesn't it just seem like a perfect circle for it to be the Cavs and the Spurs in the finals?
Without a doubt, I would love to see it, except for, I just got a feeling that the Spurs aren't going to have enough to do it. It's kind of like my Chicago theory without Rose, I mean, if Rose was healthy, the Cavs would still win, but it would be a better series.
Hey, the Spurs have a tough first. They drew that 3-6 matchup. And they're on the backside of it. They've got the Clippers. I mean, there's a first-round matchup for you right there, I mean, that's no easy. That whole West, I mean, look at those matchups over there, man. That's some stuff. I'll tell you, even Golden State, that's not a cakewalk series for them with New Orleans at all. Davis and the Pelicans, they fought their way there. Like Norris Cole, you've got some guys that have got a little championship experience there. Don't count out the Pelicans, man. Maybe they upset the Warriors. Look, I love the Warriors. I think what they've done is great. I'm just not sold that it's going to get them all the way through the playoffs.
Isn't it a little ironic that Doc Rivers said, the team that he was most worried about was the Spurs, and next thing you know, he's got them,
He's got them in the first round, And the worst part is the Clippers have all the expectations because they're the 3 seed. They're the higher seed, The Spurs are coming in the 6. But that's what they do, man. They show up and they say, hey, we're late to the party, but we're going to stick around for a while. And then at the end, I think it's going to come down to them at the end. But we'll see. I've got to stick with the champs until you knock them out. So I've got to go with the Spurs, man. And that's the only reason. I think that's the edge, is they've been there. And it's not like they were there 2 or 3 years ago. Although that's usually when they get back, is when they were there 2 or 3 years ago. But they did it last year. Go ahead.
Isn't that kind of the unwritten rule that you have to knock the champ out in order to get the belt?
I agree. And so that would be so fitting right there. Plus, it's full circle. That's the team that sent the Cavs kind of, in the direction we're thinking. That started 2007. Everybody thought, we'll get back there. They never did get back there. And it turned into 2008, 9, 10, goodbye Miami, coming back in 2014. The whole journey that we've been through. It would be perfect full circle there for it to wrap up there. Bruce, I've got to wrap this call up real quick. By the way, how about the Indians real quick this weekend? A little surprise. Salazar
got called up. That's always a good thing.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see his first start of the season tomorrow.
And they moved Z-Mac to the bullpen, which strengthens the bullpen a little bit.
little bit. Plus, hey, even though Minnesota did win 2 in a row against Kansas City, all 3 starters this weekend, right-handed starters, so at least you don't have any lefties coming at you this weekend, and hopefully the Indians can get going, although, like you brought up yesterday, don't look past them. They just knocked off Kansas City back-to-back.
Exactly. So my thing is, last year we were 25-25 against left-handed starters.
I know. This year we're waiting to get off the schneid there a little bit. What did we won?
So,
1? Did we get the victory off of off the starter the other day?
Yeah,
we won 1.
Yeah.
So that was our first one this season. Yeah.
So I was trying to put a little ray of sunlight on the actual subject there without like trying to be gloom and doom. It's like, hey, we were 25-25 against them.
That's what I said. Let's hey, look, man, it's tread water. Mike Brandenberry hit it right. You just got to try to tread water and not bury yourself too bad, and then hope that things bounce back. Bruce, my man, I got to hit the break. I appreciate the call.
Not a problem.
You got it. Excellent call, as always, from Bruce. Let's take a break. Be right back. Do not go anywhere. Sports writer extraordinaire Jonathan Knight joins us on the backside of this. We'll keep the conversation going, talking some playoffs, Cavaliers, all for Cleveland. Let's see what JK thinks about the Cavaliers' playoff hopes and where is it going to end when we come back. Jonathan Knight, live on the Sports Fix.
Get your fix.
Because it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got to do.
It's the Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
The wait is finally over, guys. Baseball season is here at last, and the excitement continues all season long. Here we go again at DraftKings.com, the official daily fantasy partner of Major League Baseball. Daily fantasy means no season-long commitments, just instant cash, instant gratification. Why wait until the end of the season to claim victory when you can win huge cash every day? At DraftKings, it's like a brand new season every time you play. Just select 2 pitchers and 8 position players, stay under your salary cap, and you could be on your way to an enormous payday. Last year, Peter from Colorado won $1 million at DraftKings in one day just playing fantasy baseball. Hundreds of thousands of fantasy sports fans, just like you and I, have already cashed in at DraftKings. Now it's your turn, baby. Hurry to DraftKings.com now and enter promo code SPREAKER to play for free. You could win part of the $300 million. Yes, I said $300 million in prizes being awarded this baseball season. Use promo code SPREAKER for free entry now at DraftKings.com. DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com.
The Sports Fix is on iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeart app today. Subscribe to the show and get your fix. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize. I mean, a really real prize. Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com.
What's your fantasy? Here we go, bring it on in. It's time now. It's all city. We got to do it for them, dog. We got to do it for Cleveland. They're waiting on us. We're fine what we're about. Let's get it on.
Every single night, every single practice, every single game, we got to give it all we got because they're going to ride with us. Everything that we do on this floor was because of this city. We owe them. We're going to grind for this city. They're going to support us, man, but we got to give it all back to them. We get it done. The toughness that we have on the court is going to come from this city. Everybody, the whole city of Cleveland. That's what it's all about. It's time to bring them something special. Let's go. Bring it on in, everybody. Let's go. Hard work on 3. Together on 6. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6. It's all us. Cleveland on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Hey man, who's that cat coming down the street?
I don't know, but it sounds to me like that Griffin man with the bone.
Sure having himself a ball.
Sorry, man, I can't help but whistle while I work, man. You gotta love a little Sweet Georgia Brown. Welcome back. Feeling good here on the Sports Fix as we roll on. Gonna get even better here. Jonathan Knight, sportswriter extraordinaire, about to join us, and we're whistling a little basketball, a little playoff style. As we said, Cavaliers begin this weekend. I can't wait to see JK here. Let's see, now that we're up to it and we know the path and all that, let's see where he thinks this thing's going to end. You guys, keep them coming. I know phone calls have been coming in. I'll open up the phones again here after JK leaves us. 216-539-7535. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Plenty more still to come right now, though. Go into the phones. Jonathan Knight, sports writer extraordinaire. JK, how you doing on this Friday afternoon?
I'm doing well, my man. How are you?
I'm all right, man. Been a couple weeks. Glad to have you back as we sit here on the verge of some Cavs playoff basketball. Been 5 years since we could say that.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that we really need to let soak in, because I think it's sort of gotten lost in the expectation of the season and the way the second half of the season has gone. We've just sort of taking the playoffs as a foregone conclusion. And let's just take a moment and realize it's been 5 years since the Cavs have even made the playoffs. So this is something that we really need to kind of appreciate. I know making the playoffs, making the NBA playoffs is not that big of an accomplishment, but it is when it's been 5 years, when it's been a 5-year gap. So let's let this soak in and sort of appreciate this a little bit before those expectations start to ratchet up again.
Absolutely. I was warning people yesterday. I said, look, you guys have really got to try hard. I know this sounds crazy to enjoy this because you're about to get inundated. The first time that there's a bad fourth quarter for Kevin Love, Stephen A. Smith's going to be on TV the next morning going, we heard word from sources that Kevin Love's not happy with the way the playoffs are going and that he may exercise his option to leave. You'll hear about arguments behind the scenes. You'll hear about how all of a sudden David Blatt doesn't know how to coach again. All of these things will come back the first time a game is lost by the Cavs, and you've just got to brush that off just like they do, because you're getting ready to get by. If you think what you heard during the regular season was silly, it's going to get ratcheted up here if there's any adversity in the playoffs.
Oh, big time, yeah, and that's the part I'm not looking forward to. As much as it's going to be nice to see all of these games mean something, and they're going pedal to the metal, and their stakes and all of this, the flip side of that is now you've got every game, not only is every game under a microscope, but you've got gaps between games that
48 hours, baby.
So there's going to be a lot of talk. So you're right. The minute that there's a bad game, the minute somebody has a bad showing, this is what they're going to talk about for the next 36 hours. So yeah, that part's not going to be fun. So I think hopefully we'll be able to glaze over that here over the next week in the first round. But by the time we get to that second round, then yeah, that's what this is going to be.
I mean, I'll tell you what, I don't see, and I'm not trying to, make this all, hey, Cavs are just going to roll through this thing. I said I thought the Celtics were the least challenging first-round matchup for them. So if you were looking for the easier first-round matchup, then you should be happy, because I think they're spunky. I love what Brad Stevens has done, but at the end of the day, you can forget those two games that they just played. The Celtics, maybe they steal one in Boston only if the Cavaliers take their focus off, take the pedal off the metal a little bit. Other than that, this is a 4-5 game top series for a team like the Cavs.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, totally agree. I mean, of course, anything can happen, blah, blah. But right. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those deals where the Cavs did catch a break. They didn't for the next round, but for the first round, yes. I think that they, of all the possible scenarios of who they could play in the first round, this is their best possible option. Now, having said that, they did not get the good flip of the coin for the second round. I think we were all hoping that Toronto might sneak past Chicago and get that 3 spot, and that did not happen. And that potentially that is going to be, I'll just say right now, that's going to be a bloody series. That's going to be 7 games.
That's the final.
Knock them down. That's going to be a heck of a series. And if you're looking forward to that, great. And there's something to be said that you need to be challenged. That if you look at historically of the teams that have gone on to the finals and won the finals in recent years, they've had to fight in the, if not the first round, then certainly the conference semifinals, the conference finals. The first time LeBron ended up winning it with Miami, every series was a dogfight. And we've seen the flip side of that. I think we look back to 2009 when the Cavs just blew through the first two rounds, swept Detroit, swept Atlanta. And meanwhile, Orlando's fighting these bloody battles in their first two rounds, and we thought, well, this is great. The Cavs have a great advantage going into the conference finals, and they just looked unprepared. Orlando was much sharper, and that, so there's a rationale there that says it's better to be pushed. So we'll see what happens. I still would rather play Toronto. I think you always want to play the team you feel you match up better with. And Chicago has given the Cavs some problems this year, but one thing at a time. First, you got to get past Boston, and then we'll worry about it after that.
You nailed it. I remember that 2009 when you sweep through the first two rounds like that. I mean, all of a sudden you're feeling unstoppable. That's what made that Orlando series so jarring, was that they just steamrolled through everything right up until that point, and then it was like, whoa, man, and then there you go.
Lost the first game at home. Should have lost the second game at home if LeBron doesn't make that miracle shot. So they were in trouble right off the rip in that series.
But that whole series, I remember it because the Cavs were up double digits in every game.
Yeah.
They started off every game like they were going to sweep their way straight to the finals. They did. And next thing you know, when the other team was, we've talked about how that's one of the differences in this team is I think that when that storm back comes, this team's got one right back for you, brother. And that's the difference, is that when you come back, okay, that's cool because they've got more firepower than you at the end of the day. And I find a hard time taking all the Cleveland out of it, finding a team that's going to win 4 out of 7 games when the Cavs have the opportunity to look at film, come back. I mean, between David Blatt, LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, those are some very intelligent basketball minds, and it's going to be very tough for them not to be able to fix anything that goes wrong in the course of a series until they get in, like you said. Now, you get Chicago, that scares me in the second round only because they've got that championship experience. You get down to the final 5 seconds of a crucial game, they've been there and done that, and we haven't, and I worry about that. And that's Atlanta's saving grace, is that unfortunately the true Eastern Conference final, to me, will happen in the second round if that's what ends up happening there, because I don't worry about Atlanta. I worry about the Chicago Bulls. That is the one team in the East that I know is going to put a series on the Cavaliers for sure.
Yeah, that's an interesting view. I think you're onto something there. As much as I think Atlanta is a better team than Chicago, and the Cavs will have some trouble if they do wind up playing Atlanta. We saw Atlanta really handled the Cavs the one time they've played here since the Cavs resurgence, that could be a heck of a series. But you're right. I think that there is, you can back that up and say that really whoever comes out of that Chicago-Cleveland series, the potential Chicago-Cleveland series, I should say, really does seem to have would seem to have the momentum. Would be like, okay, this is a tested team. This whoever comes out of here, these arguably might be the best two teams in the East over the last 2 months of the season, and would be maybe the favorite going into to face potentially Atlanta in the conference final. So yeah, I mean, there's something to be said there, and that series, if it does play out that it is Chicago and Cleveland in the semifinals, that will be maybe the series of the playoffs, really.
Yes, it will.
I mean, I know there's a lot of good ones in the West. Certainly in the East, it's going to be the series everyone's anticipating the most. But that a lot of attention will be on that one. Not to take anything away. I really don't want to glaze past the Boston series. Not so much because I think it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out series, but I love the symbolism of this. That this is where we left off. We talked about it's been 5 years since the Cavs were in the playoffs.
Where we left off.
Who they were playing. We left off exactly here. So I like that idea that we're sort of going back to maybe right that wrong, because that Boston series in 2010 has really left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. That was really a nasty, ugly, just a very bad, not just on the floor, but off the floor, everything that was swirling around. That was not a good experience. So I kind of like that symbolism. It really means nothing. They're two completely different teams, but I like that. And I like the Cavs have a very long history with Boston. Really, if you look at all the major chapters in Cavs history, they played Boston in the playoffs each time, from 76 to 85 to 92 to 2008 and then 2010. I think there's a long history there that I like. I like having that attention and having that that history sort of echoing through this. And then, of course, Chicago in the second round, long playoff history there. So I like that. I like that sense that if the Cavs are going to do something special, they kind of need to slay these dragons from their past to get there.
I'm telling you, you just set it up. You start with the Celtics, and you hit it, man, whether you're talking Miracle or Richfield. Bird's last playoff series. I mean, you could just go through them. They tie in, and then here it ends in Boston with the elbow, and the did he quit, and then taking off the jersey, and then boom, come back 5 years later. It's like you paused it, and now you're going to unpause it, and we're going to pick up where we left off. And I go to the back end, and, of course, this is projecting 3-4 series from now. It's got to end. If it's going to end, forget the Warriors. It's got to end with the Cavs and the Spurs. That's the full circle for the whole thing, man.
It has that feeling, doesn't it? It really does. I mean, it's San Antonio finishing strong and all of this, like that table does seem to be set. So, yeah, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? A lot's going to happen here over the next 6 weeks. But, I mean, it would seem that the stage is set, that every single round the Cavs are not just going to be playing an opponent, they're going to be playing their own history. They're going to be matching up with their own past and trying to create a new future.
Man, absolutely. Jonathan Knight, I know we've got very limited time today, man. Early on, we don't got a lot to get into with the Indians, but you know, we're at the pace where we're just talking about treading water, staying healthy as you can until you get guys back, trying not to take any more water on the boat.
Yes, and that's exactly the key. In fact, I just this morning had an article published on Did the Tribe Win last night that essentially takes the stance that April does not count. you hate to throw out a big chunk of the season, but in reality, if you look at the Indians' recent history, what they have done in April is the stark opposite of what they do for the rest of the year. So the type of season they wind up having is in complete contrast to how they played in April. The last 2 years, they've come out just terrible in April and turned it around and had a very nice season over the rest of the year, whereas in the previous 2 years, the last 2 years of Manny Acta, the Indians got off to great starts in April and then just completely fell apart after that. So you kind of have to take it in stride. I know that's hard to do, especially now. And again, here it is when you have days off and you've got time to really meander over the previous game and let it sink in, and it's not always good news that you're thinking about all these bad things. But once you get through April, I think that, I don't know if it's a Terry Francona thing, I don't know what it is, but I think it's really going to be May before we really see what kind of Indians team we're going to have over the next 6 months. Part of that is injuries, obviously, but this just seems to be a slow starting team in general. So you're right, absolutely right. If they can just hover around 500, don't dig too deep of a hole, and just stay in the game, stay in the race, and they'll be fine. Everything will right itself. Guys will come back. They'll figure out what they're doing, and by May, they will have this ship righted and things put together.
I love the way you phrase things. I'm just curious. The first the little stretch here with all the gomes, what were your thoughts? Like, what was going through your head as you're watching these crazy things happening? Guys dropping like flies and freak injuries. And I know you're thinking Sports Illustrated, obviously.
I couldn't help it. I mean, you cannot help but do that. I mean, and thankfully they've really kind of dodged two big bullets. I think both Gomes and Carrasco. Man. I mean, both of those could have been dramatically worse. So I think you have to temper this jinx talk with the idea that, you know what, either one of those guys, those two things happened, could have been done for the year, and instead it's just a month, 6 weeks, and then they should be, for Gomes, and Carrasco obviously will be back next week. So, they did dodge a bullet there. So before we start talking about this jinx stuff, that you got to keep that in mind. But at the same time, I mean, I think the only thing that if it were Kluber that had gotten hit in the face because he was the one who was actually on the cover, maybe that would really hammer it home. And Brantley hasn't helped things with his, this mysterious back injury that just won't seem to go away, and he was on the cover. So, hard not to think of that, but you got to push that out of your mind. I think one way or the other, once we get going, once we get into May and June, we won't be talking about that. Even if the Indians are still struggling, we won't be saying, well, it's because of the jinx. I think that it will be okay. I think we'll stop talking about that one way or the other very quickly.
All right. Quickie, did you like the changes to the field from what you've seen?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Progressive Field. Did you like the changes that they made?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. I haven't gotten a chance to get up there and see it firsthand yet, but I mean, loving it, and from the sound of it, I mean, people are really digging the corner and the new layout. It's nice to have, and more than a fresh coat of paint. I mean, this was a massive home improvement type of project. So I think that's really refreshing. It's been 21 years for the ballpark now, and it's great to see that you can still get some energy there and still sort of recapture that magic that, hey, this is still a fun place. It's not just the same old. It's great to see people excited about the park again, and that'll translate. I think you'll see bigger crowds. I think you'll see more energy in the park, and maybe that'll trickle down onto the field. We'll see.
Maybe so. Final question. I can't let you escape unscathed, Jonathan Knight. Uniforms. What did you think this week? I know I couldn't let you get out unscathed.
I think you had actually responded to it. The what I tweeted out about, they're the best looking high school football team in the NFL. I mean, that was my first thought. Honestly, it wasn't even they look good, they look bad. It just looks like a high school uniform with I think most kids, the name across the jersey. I think that's the first thing you think of because that's a high school thing. High school teams put their mascot name or the school name on the jerseys. You don't see that in the NFL. You don't really see it in college anymore. You did back in the day, but not anymore. I don't know. Other than that, I think that this is honestly what my biggest reaction to this was, and Terry Pluto echoed this in a column this week. I just can't believe how big of a story this was. I was watching the Indians game on Tuesday night. They interrupted the game. Like
I couldn't believe it,
like
dude.
President Kennedy had been assassinated type of news bulletin. The Browns just announced new uniform. I'm like, oh God, come on! Like the Indians are actually playing games. The Cavs are on the brink of starting the playoffs, and this is what we're talking about.
I couldn't believe it. JK, seriously, we had an extended conversation about it the other day. It took 9 minutes. And I mean, we stretched it out. We talked about shades of strands of thread and everything. We got to 9 minutes, and I said, that's it. There's nothing else to talk about. How are people doing this for days on end here, man? Yeah. That's it. We've exhausted
it. Really, this is the joke that people always tell about Columbus and about Ohio State. They say if Ohio State ever won an NCAA championship in basketball, everyone kind of look around and say, wow, that's great. Now, when's the spring football game? Like, this is what it's like. This is what it's like. The Browns put freaking new uniforms on, and it is the biggest story in town for a week. Doesn't matter that the Indians are picked to go to the World Series. Doesn't matter that the Cavs are on the brink of an epic playoff run. This is always going to be the top story.
The uniforms. That's the best part, man. I love it. I just wondered where you were on that, man. I do like.
Yeah, that's where I am. Still absorbing. Yeah, just can't really believe that it's real. Yeah.
Your update for the Browns Bible, though, they hooked you up because now you can have records for 9 different color combinations.
Yes. Oh, now we're gonna have to work for it. Yeah. See, and that's what I thought too. I'm wondering now: are the Browns actually going to manage to have all the players wearing the same combination of uniforms in the same game? I can just see the offensive line: one guy wearing a brown jersey, one guy wearing orange. One guy wearing the wrong pants. Yeah, I mean, you give the Browns a chance to screw something up, they're going to screw it up. So, yeah, they'll just be this mishmash of random colors running out onto the field on a random Sunday. Oh, I thought it was brown jersey. No, it was orange. Yeah.
That's wrong, but I could so see it happening. One guy's got the wrong pants on or something like that. Hey, you know what? On the way out, funny line. I went to the store the other day, and I had my Browns warm-up jacket on, and I'm, a little bald-headed, sexy kind of guy. And the guy was at the bank, and the manager comes up. He thought, I'm telling you, no joke. He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I had to come up to the desk. I thought you were Mike Pettin, coach of the Browns." Because I had my head turned. And you know what? Honestly, I've gotten that several other places because I've got a little, especially now that I've leaned down, my face is a little more shaped that way. And I could see what he was talking about, but I'm like, no, I'm just Jerry Myers, man. Sorry, man. But he came up and goes, I got to tell you.
The giveaway was that Mike Pettin would never wear brown stuff out in public.
Oh, Jonathan Knight knew how to end that phone call. That was it.
Yeah.
He goes, "Sorry, sir. I thought you were the coach of the Browns." I said, "No, but all right, thanks, man. He's a good-looking guy. I'll take that compliment." So, JK, my man, thank you.
Was he going to punch you if you were? Like, what was the next step?
I said, hey, what are you going to give me?
Did you just dodge a bullet, or did you miss out on free checking? Like, what happened?
I laughed. It was too funny. But honestly, I've had 2 or 3 people say, "Oh, from a distance, I thought maybe you were Mike Pettin." I'm like, "No, sorry, I'm not, man."
Interesting.
Anyways,
Interesting.
So
well,
there you go.
Could be worse.
JK, my man, anything updated on the Wild Thing book as we're the Major League book?
Yeah, we haven't talked about this in a while. We are getting very, very close. It's actually going to print physically printed next week. It is on Amazon if you go there, and you can pre-order it now. The date they're giving is May 29th. Hopefully it'll be a little bit before that. So hopefully by Memorial Day, you can be holding the making of Major League in your hands.
Oh man, absolutely! I can't wait to check it out. We got to get a long conversation.
There's lots to talk about.
I'm excited. I've been waiting for that, man. All right.
Yeah.
Every time I ask you, you're like, we're getting closer. So all right.
Yeah.
JK, my man,
enjoy
this weekend.
Yes.
Oh, man, I can't wait. Cannot wait. Enjoy this weekend. You got some Cavs hoops, got some Indians baseball as they start this road trip. Should be a lot of fun, and I look forward to talking to you. Hopefully, by the time you and I talk next week, we're closing in on a 4-game sweep of the Celtics, and we can tuck this one to bed.
That would be great. Yeah, one way or the other, there'll be things to talk about with the Cavs next week.
You got it. JK, thank you very much, as always, and we'll catch up next week.
You bet, buddy.
My man, the sports writer extraordinaire, Jonathan Knight. Always a great conversation, and I'm with him there on that, man. Let's see. It's going to be, you guys go back to what we said at the beginning. The first 60 seconds of what JK said, man. You got to relax and enjoy. Take a minute, take a deep breath, and think about what is getting ready to transpire here and enjoy. And, he puts it full circle. So many people have brushed over, and I know it's just, a storyline, but it is kind of full circle that it ended. Like, a lot of people forget that last series because, years have gone by. You just talk about the decision, but it ended with the Celtics, and it starts back with the Celtics, and then it's gotta, don't you agree? It's gotta end with the Spurs, man. I know the Warriors are the trendy pick, and I get that, but I can't bet against the champs until somebody beats the champs, and then to me, this just lines up. Forget the East. This lines up like a typical rope-a-dope that the Spurs pull. Man, you see them stumbling in there. They didn't care about seeding or anything, and they start to get it together near the end of the season, and then they get themselves in there in that, like, it's always the 6, 7, 5. They're always just kind of meandering into the playoffs, and next thing you know, 6 weeks later, you're still talking about the Spurs, and all the other teams that you just anointed are at home watching the Spurs play ball. So I think it's got to come back around full circle, man. Plus, again, just looking at the West, it's not like the Spurs took a dramatic dip or anything like that. Other teams took a step up, but challengers take a step up all the time. You've still got to knock off the champs, man. So I like, and to be honest with you, of the teams in the West that I worry about in a 7-game series with the Cavs, I do. The Spurs can play, but as I said, or not the Spurs, excuse me, the Warriors can play. But I worry more about the Spurs and the Rockets than I do about the Warriors, just in the midst of looking at a pure 7-game series. And you guys, it's not like I'm saying that the Cavs aren't going to have a fight with the Warriors too. I just think that their style who knows though? When they can hit every shot in the building, you get a night like that, you get Curry and Thompson going off. It doesn't matter if it's the playoffs or the exhibition season, you're in for some trouble. Let's hear what you guys think. I've got time for another call on the hotline. Missed this call during Jonathan Knight's segment. Let's go to the phones. Caller, you're up here on the Sports Fix.
J-Rocc, it's your boy Ronnie Rodden. Just giving you a call, man, let you know how excited I am for this Cavs playoffs coming up. I don't see no one being able to stop us in the East. If anything, maybe one game, and that just might be for some political reasons for some more money to come in downtown Cleveland. But I don't see us hitting any troubles or roadblocks until we hit that West, man. And even then, I don't know if anyone's going to stop us. I think this is our year. I'm excited for the team. I'm excited for the city of Cleveland. I'm a season ticket holder. I've been down there all year. I was just down there the last game of the season, which was an amazing last game of the season, going into overtime, and just the energy in the building that night. You could tell the city's ready for something just unbelievable to happen. So I wish all the listeners today have a great day, and let's kick the sports fix off right, man. All right, take it easy, J-Rocc.
I'll tell you, like he said, man, the city feeling something special, man. And I agree. I'm telling you guys, relax and enjoy it. It's nothing given, everything earned, to use a cliche, since we love to throw those out there. One game at a time, one win at a time, man. And that's it. That's all you do, man. You take the number 16, and then you go out there and you add up to it. You start with a 0. You just win some games. You keep putting one in. You add it up to 16, man, and you got to take it one game at a time, but you've got to enjoy it because and here's the other reason I say that. Let's say the Cavaliers finish the journey. Let's say they win this championship that so many people think is going to happen. There's no guarantee that happens again. I mean, how many times? 95. How many people just like me, how many of you guys said, oh, well, shit, this is just the first of how many? This is the first of how many World Series in a row for the Indians? 2007, you get swept by the Spurs. How many of us said, this is just the first of many NBA Finals? LeBron's going to be in the Finals for the rest of his career. They didn't go back. I'm just saying, you guys, you know what I mean? I mean, they're even the best teams. It's no guarantee that they get back there. So even if you want to look at this from a perspective of, hey, man, the Cavs are winning for sure, you still better stop and enjoy it because next year, you know, it's a whole different. And there's the other thing. Cleveland will learn, hopefully, man, knock on wood, we get to learn about the flip side of that, which is the expectations that come when you've already won the championship, because that is a whole nother journey that a lot of people have never experienced, but you got to get there first. We're already putting the cart before the horse. But just in general, whether the Cavs finish the journey or whether they don't, there's no guarantee that this particular whatever happens again. So sit back, relax, enjoy it. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. The symbolism coming around with Boston and all of that is, and man, talk about the bloodshed yet to come. If it gets to Chicago and Cleveland in the second round, that's going to be brutal. And that's the one thing when you know, JK said a bloody series. The thing, that's a euphemism, but I do worry about it. Either those physical series, you worry about somebody getting hurt. Those are where a whole playoff run can change. You've got to be fortunate when it comes to keeping your squad healthy through the whole run. I mean, we've seen teams lose guys in the middle of a series that's completely changed everything. In Chicago, we've seen it. You lose your star in the middle of a playoff series. So all of that fortune comes on top of skill and luck and talent. It all goes together when you win a championship. So it's going to be a lot of fun, baby. Cavaliers. As a matter of fact, let's get some news in here and come back with a full preview now. Let's break it down. Go through the positions. Let's look at the Cavs and the Celtics all the way through. Jeff Gorman's going to join us after the break. We'll do a preview here of the Cavs series and take a glimpse around all of the first-round series that begin this weekend in the NBA. We've still got a lot more to come. We'll talk some Indians, Monsters news, so much more. When we come back, we're talking Cavs and Celtics. A full playoff preview coming up with Jeff Gorman next after the news here on the Sports Fix.
Throughout the NBA, they never do now that when the pressure's on and the game is almost through, the Cavs will make it happen and rally 2 by 2. We'll never surrender. No way. Ain't no way, never surrender. No matter what the odds. Ain't no way, never surrender. Come on, got to make it happen. Come on, got to make it happen. Come on.
The Sports Fix, your choice for intelligent talk.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Intelligent talk.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good, though.
It could have been a lot better.
I didn't really like it.
These guys must be on the wrong station.
It was pretty terrible.
It was bad.
It was awful.
It was terrible.
Get them away!
Hey, boo!
Boo!
The Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, do you tweet? So do we. So tweet with us 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Have you gotten your copy of Cleveland's Finest yet? Highlighting the best moments, players, and media members in Cleveland sports history? In-depth personal interviews with some of the top names in Cleveland sports fill the pages of this incredible book. Cleveland's Finest by Vince McKee is this year's must-have book for every Cleveland sports fan. Available now at Amazon.com. Get your copy today.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
News break.
Good morning, I'm Bob Picozzi. He says he owes private apologies to a lot of people and a very public one to the Browns and their fans. Quarterback Johnny Manziel issued a statement today thanking his family, friends, and teammates for their patience during his rehab to treat an unspecified issue. The 2012 Heisman Trophy winner plans to attend Browns off-season workouts next week. They won a league-high 67 games now. The Warriors must win 16 more to win their first NBA title in 40 years. Golden State will host New Orleans tomorrow in Game 1 of the playoffs, 3:30 Eastern Time Saturday on ABC, 2:30 on ESPN Radio. MVP candidate Steph Curry likes the way his team finished.
It's very important how we play night in, night out. I think the way we handled that month just, it demonstrates our focus and commitment to winning. And I don't think that'll change now that we're in the playoffs.
Golden State's 67 wins broke a franchise record. Pavel Datsyuk scored twice to lead Detroit to a 3-2 win over Tampa Bay last night. Game 1 of their Stanley Cup playoff series. Second round of the RBC Heritage today. Morgan Hoffman is 7 under through 13 holes and leads by 2.
Nothing feels as good as a job done right. When it comes to cleaning up, Quickie Bulldozer brand push brooms are always the right call. Lightweight yet durable. They can handle all your cleanup needs. Look for the Quickie Bulldozer brand at Lowe's.
You're listening to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live as we roll on. We're just a hair early on hour 2, but we're rolling into hour 2 of the Sports Fix. It'll happen during this conversation. J-Rocc back with you. Jerry Myers here, clicking the dials and getting ready to be joined by Jeff Gorman. Now, usually at this time, we're talking maybe some Browns football, or maybe we'd be doing a draft preview. But I told you guys, Jeff's my special assignment guy, man. And this week, I had a special one for him. I said, hey, we got to do some playoff previews, some NBA talk. We're going to get into the Cavs. We're going to go. It's easy to sit here and say, oh, man, the Cavs are going to do this and that. We're going to break this bad boy down. Cavs and the Celtics. We'll walk through all the positions. We'll talk about what the Cavs do have to worry about, what the Celtics have to worry about. We'll break this series down, and we'll take a little walk through all of these first-round playoff matchups. As I said, I personally think it goes chalk through the East. I think 1, 2, 3, and 4 most likely advance. So 1, 2, and 3, I see having no problem in the first round. Perhaps Washington and Toronto. But I think 1, 2, 3, 4, the West, way more competitive to talk through the first round there. But we're going to do that with Jeff. You guys, let me know where you're at as we've been going. You've heard the callers coming in. What do you think happens on this monumental run the Cavaliers are getting ready to go through? Where does it end? 216-539-7535. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Let me know your thoughts on what's going to happen here in the NBA playoffs and more. Anything else you want to talk about. We're still going to preview the Cavs and the Indians and the Twins. We'll talk Monsters and Blue Jackets news and so much more when we roll on. But right now, I'm going to roll to the phones, and we're going to get Jeff Gorman in on the conversation. You hear Poison in the background. Nothing but a good time starting this weekend as the Cavs crack open downtown Cleveland to the world for the NBA playoffs. Jeff Gorman from Indians and Browns101.com, and we're going to throw that out the window because today he's my special assignment man talking NBA playoffs. Jeff, my man, how you doing?
I'm doing super, J-Rocc. Thanks for having me talking about the Cavs. You know, this is really kind of an amazing thing, something that we've been waiting 4 years for, and you know, there's really a very good chance that this could have really never happened. And when you think about how remarkable it is that after 4 years away, you know, LeBron comes back, and now we're kind of back in a situation where we have a legitimate chance at winning a world championship. But just the fact that that possibility is on the table here in Cleveland, that's got to be nothing but a good time for everybody.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, there was a good piece, and you know what, I can't remember which guy put it together, and I love to give credit, but there was a good piece today in the Plain Dealer or on Cleveland.com kind of along those lines, and we've talked about David Griffin. I think he should be the general man. I think he's definitely be the executive of the year for what he pulled off there. But the piece today, it was Terry Pluto, of course, my man Terry Pluto. He brought up kind of along that point, and something we've talked about. I mean, it's so funny because I think Terry Pluto, I've mentioned this before, I do believe he listens occasionally to the Sports Fix because there's times, man, that we're right on the same page. And I'll tell you, I actually read something that was very along the lines of what we said yesterday about the trades for Mozgov and Smith and Shumpert saving the season. That was my exact words yesterday, and that was the exact phrase that Terry Pluto used in his article today. And I think it's the perfect wording, is that saved the season. And I mean, that's part of what this talked about was David Griffin went back and talked. There we go. I knew I was sounding a little bit low there. David Griffin talked about how that changed the season, and it's true. I mean, this season, a lot of people were willing, you know, they thought Love was going to be the big move, and yeah, there might be a little maneuvering at the deadline, but I think a lot of this was, let's see what happens, and David Griffin said, you know what? We don't have the luxury of waiting and seeing what's happening. Let's make these moves now. He didn't even wait until February. He didn't wait until the trade deadline. He made those moves in early January. He identified the weaknesses of his team. For all the talk of, who doesn't want to come play with LeBron James? This team, as it was constructed at the beginning of the season, was not championship caliber. He identified the holes, and he exactly filled the needs that he needed to do. That, to me, you can credit LeBron James for a lot of things with the resurgence of this franchise, but you cannot discredit the moves that Griffin made this season, regardless of the LeBron factor.
You're right. It was really a situation where he showed a lot of boldness and a lot of intelligence as well, because it's one thing to notice that you need to do something, and it's another thing to make the right decisions. Yep. And it's kind of amazing because when you think about it, you know, conventional basketball wisdom, if you put together a quote-unquote big three like LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love, then that's enough to take you almost, if not all the way to the championship. But it turns out it really takes even more than a big three, and we definitely did not have the guys around that big three to make things work, especially with Varejao going out. And the fact that he was able to go out and get those three guys, you know, Mozgov and J.R. Smith and Shumpert, with the different skills that they bring, you know, with, you know, Mozgov protecting the rim, and there's Shumpert on defense, and then J.R. Smith, you know, hitting the long ball the way he can, you know, when he's mentally right. He was able to get all three of them. I mean, that was just a masterstroke, and you can see how it's turned the season around as, even though we're the number 2 seed, we're considered the favorite to win the whole thing.
Absolutely. And you know, too, we point to the big ones, which are, you know, that's kind of easy to do when you know, even the trades. But talking about the little maneuvers to clear up the trade exceptions and the salary cap, a lot of little behind-the-scenes stuff, a lot of the stuff that was done last summer to set the stage for having the ability, like you know, looking at the Bogans deal. It's things that the casual fan didn't even know was happening because there were exchanges of players that never actually became members of the Cavaliers. There was a lot of contracts and papers that changed hands without actual players playing for the Cavs. You think about all those salary cap moves and packaging the groups of players and getting those different exceptions, but they all came together to create the toolbox that allowed the Cavs to go out there and do what they do. Because, again, I think it's so easy. And I know, look, LeBron James as a star, as a draw, as a star player in the NBA, brings so many salves to your wounds. Anything. I mean, he's really a panacea for a lot of problems with a basketball franchise. And I know that I would be foolish not to say that. I mean, financially, merchandising, on the court, all of those things. So you can't understate. Because I think a lot of people instantly, when you try to give credit to David Griffin, they throw the LeBron card out there. And I agree. You cannot understate the change of everything when LeBron came home. But I think you can't understate that on how that affected David Griffin's job as well, because literally his job changed overnight in a good way. Trust me, in a good way. I'd much rather get a phone call that says LeBron's going to come play for you than not. But, you know, that was a different situation, and he was able to adjust on the fly. And again, I go to hubris is something, too, that I point to. I've got an ego. Everybody's got an ego. It's a part of the human psychology. And general managers have an ego too. And he put his team together, and he didn't even give his team until the trade deadline to say, well, let's see what he knew right away. He knew within a handful of games, I got to do something about Dion and Kyrie. These two are not working together. I've got to get me a rim protector because there's nobody in the middle when these guys blow past my guards. And I've got nobody besides LeBron out on the wings that's a big athletic defender, and I'm going to get killed that way too. He saw it, and he said, I've got to fix this now, not tomorrow. I've got to go fix it now. And he identified, and he went out and he got. And again, I think that's where it's easy to say LeBron. David Griffin deserves a ton of credit for what he did, because really here's the perfect statement. He said all that heat that was on David Blatt at the beginning of the season should have been on him, because David Blatt was only coaching the the unfully realized roster, the roster that still had holes in it. He said, actually, all the heat that was on David Blatt should have been on me because I didn't have a complete roster.
Right, and you can see that it's borne out the rest of the season. You know, David Blatt didn't suddenly become a great coach in the second half of the season. He didn't suddenly figure out the NBA game, and now he's coaching well. You know, he's coaching as well as he can, and he's either got the right pieces or he doesn't. And, so obviously it's certainly taken a lot of heat off of David Blatt, although some people are already talking about, well, how is he going to coach in the playoffs? Is he going to get out coaching the playoffs? I think you really have to give him pretty much the benefit of the doubt based on his international experience. But it really was very impressive for Griffin, because you talk about, people having egos, and, he really had to pretty much overrule himself. He pretty much really had to say, I put this team together, and this team isn't good enough. And to be able to switch roles like that and basically overrule himself, like I said, that took a lot of guts, because, if that doesn't work out, then you're really in trouble. But it certainly did, and it's just really great the way it's worked out to the point where we can come into the playoffs and really have a very complete team that can match up in just about every way with almost anybody that we can go up against.
And I will throw this out here, and I was critical too, but I understood the leverage. I've negotiated a lot of contracts in my life too, and I understand leverage, and I understand making the most for every deal. A lot of the talk when LeBron came of having the ability to get out, and no matter how many times he said, hey, this is for financial purposes, and I'm going to redo the contract next summer and all of that, I think that had LeBron James been long-term signed up for 3, 4, 5 years for the Cavs, perhaps there's a tiny bit less incentive to make those January. And I'm not saying you don't still make those trades in February or you don't still make moves, but that was part of the under the gun of making them so quickly, because it quickly, once LeBron only had the 1 year actual commitment, then as much as you talk about patience and the big term and let's see what happens and all that does change. And it did become a win-now situation. No matter what you eloquently put in Sports Illustrated, it was a win-now situation.
That's right. There's no better reason to win now than you have LeBron James on your team. I mean, the fact that he's been able to make it to the finals with whatever team he's been with so many times, instantly have a chance to go all the way. And just we talk about the people who come to your team. I mean, having LeBron is like having the bat signal up in the sky. Only instead of the bat symbol, it's, you know, the Larry O'Brien trophy. It's like, look, this is something that you can have. And then you have people flocking to try to even get like a role player spot on the team. And that's why even coming down to the depth on the roster with guys like Miller and Jones and even Perkins, you know, you have people who want to be on the team, not just to get an easy shot at the ring, but to possibly use their skills down the stretch because, you know, it's going to be a long slog. You've got to win 16 games. You're going to play maybe 24, 25 playoff games, and, you know, people are going to get beat up. You know, a lot of these guys are going to be able to get their minutes in, and they're going to have that experience. Even the people on the end of the bench are probably going to be able to contribute before this is all over with.
I'll tell you what, you mentioned a little bit earlier, rewinding in our conversation, David Blatt, and I'll go back there with you. I'll go to David Blatt because I think in the playoffs it's going to be a very good, I don't want to say test or anything like that. I think it's going to really spotlight David Blatt because I do believe that in the regular season in the NBA, it is a player's game. And I mean, in general, the NBA is a player's game because of the nature of how much of the game happens on the fly. I mean, this is, you know, football, you have a stop between every play, and the coaches have their hands on everything. It's super micromanaged. Baseball, there's a pause between every pitch. There's an ability to communicate. While there is hand signals and on-the-fly communication in basketball, a lot of times the game gets to going back and forth, and it's on the players. It's a player's game more than the other sports, and that's not to minimize coaching, and that's because in the playoffs, I think that's when coaching does start to have more meaning in the NBA because you've not only during the games, you've got more timeouts for TV because every game is televised, so there's more TV timeouts, there's more timeouts in general, there's more in-game opportunities for coaches to have their hands on the game, plus between the games, you have the day in between for the film study and the coaches to adjust. So I think that we'll really start to get a good look, and I think David Blatt's going to shine. Me personally, I think people are going to go, wow, this guy is, you know, I could be wrong. He could go out here and make the wrong call out of every timeout, and who knows. But I don't see that. I think that people at the end of this are going to go, hey, man, David Blatt really shined in these playoffs because I think when you get to playoff basketball, that's the one part of the NBA season where it's still a player's game, but there's a lot more of the coaching influence, and the better coaches get more out of their teams in the playoffs. That's my thoughts.
I think you're right, and I think just the fact that David Blatt is here on this team indicates that he's got that experience and he's going to do it. They didn't just go out and get somebody from, you know, a foreign country simply because nobody wanted the job. They got him because he's one of the best coaches around the world who's not in the NBA, although now he currently is. But, you know, the fact that he was brought in here for this team, you know, indicates that he really obviously knows what he's doing. And, of course, it's going to have to be his first year in the NBA, but, you know, that's a hurdle that has to be gone over. And I think it's going to be a good coaching matchup here in the opening series with the Celtics. You know, Brad Stevens for the Celtics has done a really good job of getting the most out of the team and getting them down the stretch to the playoffs, despite having, you know, a lot of limitations on that roster, but he's done very well. So it'll be a nice test right off the bat to see what Blatt can do from a coaching standpoint. But, you know, it also helps Blatt because, you know, he's got LeBron James there. He's pretty much a coach on the floor at this point in his career. You know, he's only, I think, something like 30-some years old, and, you know, but he's been pretty much a basketball genius since he was in high school. And the fact that he's been everywhere, he's seen everything, you know, he obviously has a lot of influence in every aspect of this team. And, you know, having him as well is going to give, you know, Blatt a little bit of a helping hand that other coaches aren't going to have.
That was the perfect place to start. Let's do our little breakdown here of the Cavs and the Celtics with those coaches. You started with it, so it's perfect. Blatt and Stevens both getting their first playoff experience. Of course, it's David Blatt's rookie NBA season. Brad Stevens, I like the job he's done. Obviously, coming out of college, love what he did. Butler, all of that. I was joking during the Celtics playoff run here to get into the playoffs that's why it's happening, because this is his time of year. Brad Stevens, he's in that March Madness, that April mode, that playoff tournament mode. So, and he's got young guys that are just playing hard for him, and he's the right kind of coach he's the right kind of coach coach. It's like I don't want to say a college team, but it's younger guy. It's the right team and the right coach. And I like what Brad Stevens has done. Obviously, I like what David Blatt has done. I know it'll never happen. I'd give David Blatt some Coach of the Year votes here for sure. I know it won't happen. But anyways, I got to give the edge to the Cavs, though. I think that when you look, Brad Stevens has got a little bit of NBA experience, got a whole lot of other experience, college and et cetera. But David Blatt, the people want to call him a rookie, they'd be sadly mistaken because he is the anti-rookie. He has coached thousands of games in his career. You can say it wasn't in the NBA all you want. You can only play at the level you're at. And at the levels he's been at, he has been the absolute best at every level he's been at for a long time. So I think when it comes down to coaching, that is a hands-down advantage to the Cavaliers.
I think so, too. It's going to be really, like I said, it's going to be interesting to really watch this and just to be able to juggle the players and the minutes. And, of course, with the Celtics, you've got a team that's, very guard-heavy. They really like to rely on their guards, and they don't have as much up front. And, the Cavs are going to really have definitely an advantage when it comes to, being in the paint. But it's going to be up to Brad Stevens to see if he can, maximize those rotating guards and try to cause some havoc and maybe take the Cavaliers out of their rhythm and just sort of play their style of basketball. Of course, I'd like to think that the Cavs won't fall for that, but, that's what they're going to try to do and pretty much try to keep things moving with their guards because that's really the strength of the Celtics team.
Well, you said something in there that I think this is the sticking point for every team that plays the Cavs this season, and this is what I'm thinking is as you said, trying to get the Cavs to play their game, and that's a cliche that you hear a lot. But I'll throw this out there. I think what makes this Cavs team as special as I think they are and what they're going to do is their ability to play your game. I think the Cavs are so diverse in the skill sets of the different lineups that they can throw at you, that's where the problem's going to come in, is that I think they can play your game, whatever your game is. If your game is to go big, I think the Cavs can do that with you. If your game is to go small, I think the Cavs can do that. If you want to shoot it out, good luck, because they shot 8 million three-pointers this season. So, I just think that's why I'm so confident in the Cavs. It's not because if you play the Cavs game, of course, if you play any team's game, they're most likely going to win their own game. But the Cavs' ability to play your game and make it their game, that's what I think is what gives them the advantage over most teams. And that's where then the been there, done that comes in. And that's where I worry about teams like Chicago, teams like the Spurs, because it doesn't matter. You can lose the best game ever played in 1 second. All it takes is that final 1 second of a game to change history. So, and sometimes playing together for years is the difference maker in that last second of a game. So that's the one place where you hold out that the Cavaliers can be gotten. But if you're going to try to make them play your game, you better know what you're doing, because I think they can play your game as well as most teams. Let's look. You said guards. Let's start right there. Primarily, Kyrie Irving and Matthew Dellavedova are going to be your point guards there for the Cavaliers. Mostly Kyrie Irving when you're talking playoff minutes. Marcus Smart and Isaiah Thomas are going to be the cats on the other side there. To me, look, no offense, but that's a no-brainer. Kyrie Irving has the advantage all day long there. We know what he's done this season, specifically against Boston. He was pretty tough. He had the 2 games that he played, he had 23 points and 5 assists a game, 55% from 3. He was definitely pretty good. I like Isaiah Thomas's game, by the way, and Marcus Smart as well too. Since he came out of college, but that's no matchup there. That's the Cavaliers' advantage all day long.
Definitely. If it weren't for LeBron overshadowing him, Irving would get a lot more credit for being, one of the top players in the league, even still being as young as he is. He's really, a star that can pretty much carry, be the top guy in a franchise if you don't have LeBron there. So, I think the Celtics did a really good job of getting Isaiah Thomas. I thought he was a very underrated talent when he was
It helped their season. Yeah, absolutely. That helped them a lot.
But yeah, like you said, Irving is one of the best around, and so, I think that's a situation like you're talking about where you can play to their strengths and still beat them, with a dominant point guard like Kyrie Irving. And that's one of the strengths overall, it's the fact that if you look at this entire Cavs roster and the different things that they can do, there's really not a whole lot of weaknesses. It's like, where do you attack this team? And it's hard to find any place to do so.
Well, I can point to one place that I do think in the starting five, the Celtics will have a little bit of an advantage here, and that's when you match up J.R. Smith and Avery Bradley. I like Avery Bradley. I mean, he was, his emergence was one of the things over the last few years that allowed Boston to segue into the luxury of being able to part ways with a Rajon Rondo, and that was kind of brewing for a while there. But we've seen Bradley emerge over the last couple of seasons for Boston. He is a great defensive player. He's given J.R. Smith fits throughout his career. That's going to be interesting because J.R. Smith, as we've joked all season about him coming in and shooting from wherever and all of that, but that's a big part of what the Cavs have been doing. Avery Bradley is definitely able to handle J.R. Smith, and as much as I'd love to give the Cavs the advantage everywhere, I actually think Avery Smith is, I would put him as a slight bit of an upgrade over Smith, and I love what J.R. Smith has done, but look at what he's done here against the Celtics in the 4 games that they've played. He has 6 points, 25% from 3 for J.R. Smith, and I think you can easily credit most of that to the defensive play of Avery Bradley.
And yeah, that's a good point. I think that might be just the one spot that we're going to go through where you would give the edge to the Celtics. And the other thing you got to worry about is Evan Turner coming off the bench. I mean, he's been the Celtics' leading scorer in their last couple games, and he's really been able to fill it up for them. So that's going to be the situation where the Cavs are going to have to watch out for. And one thing they have to do is they have to not fall into the trap of trying to match up too much with them, because I know the Cavs have really fallen in love with the 3-ball, especially over the last couple of months, and I'd like to see the Cavs not rely on that too much, because the 3-ball can definitely be a very fickle mistress.
I'm with you, and you took my phrase there, man. How you gonna take my term and use it on my own
fickle
show,
mistress?
Man? Absolutely, man. It's one of my favorites. But anyways, I'm just messing with you, man. I disagree about Turner. He's not coming off. He's going to be the primary defender on LeBron most of this series. I mean, Evan Turner's going to be their small forward there on LeBron most of the way. I mean, do we even have? I don't think we even have to discuss who has the advantage in this position. I mean, that's that's no brainer. LeBron James all day, but Evan Turner's a great player. I mean, former Buckeye, you guys know. He does a great job. He's a triple threat for those guys all over the place. He defends, he rebounds, he passes, he scores. He's all over the place. What did he average? 9 points, 5 boards, 7.5 assists this season against the Cavs. So he's effective, but he's up against LeBron James. And so on the defensive side of the ball alone, he's going to wear himself out there. I obviously give the advantage to the Cavs, but hats off to Evan Turner because he's got a hell of a job trying to keep up with LeBron in this one. Let's switch into the big guys here and look at the couple of guys that are going to be muscling around in the paint. Brandon Bass, I've always liked Brandon Bass. He's one of those guys that gives you what you need down there, man. He's always been a solid guy down there for the Celtics. Kevin Love, his first time, much like Kyrie Irving, much like a lot of these guys, first time in the playoffs, so he's going to get the taste of the spotlight here. But it's Love and Bass for the most part going to be that matchup down there at the 4. Kevin Love, no matter what anybody has said all season, I don't care. He's been a double-double machine all season long. I think that continues. This is a good matchup, but I do believe that it favors the Cavs. I mean, simply when you get into the difference on the offensive side of the game.
Right, and I think that Kevin Love has really gotten a bit of a bum rap throughout the entire year because, people are saying that he doesn't, his numbers aren't up and stuff like that. It's kind of the same thing that happened to Chris Bosh when he went to the Heat. When you're arguably the third guy in a big three, there's simply just not enough basketballs to go around for you to be, Bosh was the main guy for the Raptors. Then he comes in there and goes with LeBron and D-Wade. Love, of course, obviously the top guy for the Timberwolves. Then he comes in with Kyrie and LeBron, and you're just not going to put up the same numbers. So people can't expect him to have the same stats that he had when he was with Minnesota. And he's just fine. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. He hasn't been perfect, but you gotta love having a guy like that on your team, especially in a situation where you can really stretch out the floor the way he does. And I think that Love is really a lot better, I think, and has been performing a lot better this year than I think people have given him credit for. But we talk about power forward. It's also interesting to see the guys off the bench, see what Tristan Thompson can do for us, and another Ohio State guy, Jared Sullinger, for the Celtics.
Yeah, for sure, And by the way, Jeff Gorman joining us here. We're doing a playoff preview on the Sports Fix. I'm J-Rocc. Just wanted to get that in there as we roll on. And I agree with you there, too, with Kevin Love. I've kind of stuck up for him all year, man. It's easy to jump on that bandwagon and say that he's this. Look, I think that he's done what they've asked him to do. I mean, that is the thing. That's the part that people aren't looking at. If there were things that the Cavaliers were out here asking him to do that he was not doing, okay, we can talk about that. Oh man, he's been unable to do this, unable to do that. But that's not the case. It's simply, we have not asked you to fill certain roles. We have not asked, you know what I mean? And at that point, how can you hate on the guy for simply doing the job that you need him to do, So I'm with you there. I think Brandon Bass is a good power forward. I think defensively, rebounding, defensively, I like Bass more than Love, of course. I think he's a dogged defender. He'll get some rebounds. Obviously, offensively, you get about 10 foot. That's that little jumper that Bass has. That's where the advantage goes Kevin Love, because he's able to do a whole lot more offensively. In the pivot, too. Talking about former players, Buckeyes, Cavs. How about Tyler Zeller? That's the one guy, by the way, that I wish the Cavs had been able to find a way to keep. I just think Tyler Zeller backing up Mozgov as the backup center would be I think you wouldn't lose a step. I think Tyler Zeller, I loved him as he was developing here in Cleveland. Hated that salary cap we had to part ways with him this summer to make the deal for LeBron to come in. I memean, that was the only way we could do it. But Tyler Zeller's a good guy. I like what he's done. Obviously the family plays well. They've got history in the NBA, but he's no Timofey Mozgov, who I will go back to saying is the guy that saved the Cavaliers season.
Oh, I will totally agree with you. Just watching Mozgov, I was able to go up and check out one of the games shortly after he arrived on the team, and just what he was able to do, playing with so much energy and dominating in the paint, and it was just something that you could tell that this team lacked. And as great as Varejao has been from time to time, he just hasn't been able to stay healthy, and just to get somebody like, it's really amazing that we were able to get this guy, and that the Nuggets were gave up on him or somehow got him to us, but he's just really been that element that we lacked, and it was people were talking about, you need a rim protector, and that's exactly what he's been. I mean, and this, I think, like you said, I like Tyler Zeller too. I would have loved to be able to hang on to him. It's just a fact of reality that you just kind of can't keep everybody that you like. But I have really no problem with Zeller. I think he's really good. But I think Mozgov is really going to be I think Mozgov is going to have a very good series. I think Mozgov is going to be very big all throughout the playoffs. He's going to open the eyes of a lot of people around the country throughout the playoffs when they're focusing on, the big three. Mozgov is going to really surprise them, I think.
I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely, Jeff. I think Mozgov is going to come up big, and I'll tell you what, man. I could see him in the first round of the playoffs, man, being one of the X factors there when it comes to who could be an MVP. I know it's so easy to go, LeBron, Kyrie, but I could see Mozgov just having some. I could see him getting out there running the floor, getting out there getting some of them oops and dominating down low. I think Mozgov has a big opening series there against. He's just got. I love Tyler, but he's got such an advantage there in the paint. How about the benches of these two teams? I mean, obviously the Cavs aren't going to go too deep, but they've got Tristan Thompson, who I think should get some votes for Sixth-Man Player of the Year here, but I don't know if he will or not. I think that his contributions, I go to the Kevin Love, kind of the same description. It's what you've asked him to do. The Cavaliers said, you know what? This guy gets boards. He gets offensive boards like crazy. He loves to play defense. Doesn't care if he ever shoots the ball. We don't even have a play in our playbook for Tristan Thompson. He just plays, and that's when you have a team with a big three, you have to have unselfish, you have to have guys that just don't give a damn if they ever shoot the ball. I mean, believe it or not, the NBA has a bunch of those guys, and you have to have guys like that on a team with high usage players. When you got LeBron, Kyrie, and Love, and these cats all want to shoot the ball, and then you add a J.R. Smith who's never met a shot that he hasn't turned down. All of a sudden, if you're running plays for Tristan Thompson, where are you going to fit those in? He doesn't care. He gets boards. He gets the hustle. I love his play. Coming off the rebounds, 8 points, 8 boards off the bench, and even though the Cavs bench has been a weak point this season, I think they've only averaged about 23 points throughout the season. It's not going to be as bad because you don't go 10 deep in the playoffs. You don't go 12. I mean, I could be wrong, but I would expect them to definitely shorten up to an 8-man rotation here for the playoffs. So, in that case, then I think that the Cavaliers bench will not be as big of a weakness because minutes are gone. We're not worried about saving minutes. Look, it doesn't matter if LeBron James plays 36 or 46 minutes. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if they play 800 minutes. You win these games and you win the championship at this point. Where are you at with the benches, though? I mean, Jay Crowder, who, by the way, a small little trivia note, was drafted by the Cavaliers. I don't know if you guys remember that.
That's right, yeah.
When he came out from Marquette, was part of the deal with Tyler Zeller. But neither player now ends up here, and they both end up playing for the Celtics. But I like Jay Crowder when he played for Marquette. He's a good guy. He can score some points off the bench. Kelly Olynyk, he's also a guy that can get out there and put a body down. I think the Celtics have a better bench than the Cavaliers. I just don't know how much that's going to matter in this series.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head there. It's not going to matter. Really, what's going to matter is pretty much your first couple of guys off the bench, basically talking about Thompson and Dellavedova for the Cavaliers. And then, with the and Sullinger is going to be the big one for the Celtics. If he can come in and help out and maybe start to, throw down some dominance there, then he could possibly, help the Celtics a little bit. Ultimately, I don't think it's going to be enough. But I think that, the Cavaliers, they've got a bunch of strength on the bench that they're probably not going to use too much of, but, in a pinch, in like possible future series, just the fact that the guys that they could bring off the bench have so much playoff experience that I think that, sometimes these guys, you don't hear from them hardly at all throughout the season, but then they come up and hit a big shot, or they make a couple big plays down the stretch. And like, this guy's just been in mothballs all this time, but that's why they're there, because they have that kind of experience, and ultimately it comes through.
And that's the other thing, too. When I talk about end of games, guys that have been there and those final crucial minutes and seconds and all of that stuff, that's where your Joneses and your Millers and those guys come in. They have been there. You know what I mean? They've been in those things. So that's part of that, too. You can look at – everybody looks at the stats and the points and the minutes and all of that stuff, but the minutes that matter the most are the final ones when it comes to the playoffs. So having those guys on your roster, this is where having Mary and having those guys comes in, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be an interesting journey that begins here. I'll be honest, I've been trying to be nice and say 5 just because I don't want to be that guy that says sweep. But the more after our conversation here, I'm kind of leaning that way. I'll be honest, I don't really think that the Celtics, even in Boston, have the firepower to win unless the Cavs just have one of those games where they maybe they go up 3-0 in the series and they let off the gas and they let one away in Boston. But other than that, I really believe that this is a 4-game series for the Cavs.
I agree. I don't think it's really hometown hype or anything to say that the Cavs should win all 3 of them. They just have so much more talent, top to bottom, from the superstars down to the bench, that, like I said, unless they just really come out and fall asleep one time, or unless, like you said, the shots just aren't falling, maybe in Boston, maybe the Celtics might gut one out. But I really would not be surprised to see the Cavs, win all the way through. And that would be great because, you talked about, minutes, and you don't have to worry about giving up too many minutes. You're always going to have a day off, which is a good thing. And, of course, if you can finish somebody off in 4 games, you can watch other teams beat each other up for 6-7 games, and you can have a little bit of a freshness advantage in the next round.
And not even just that. I'm looking ahead around for the Indians. Me and JK were talking earlier in the show about the battle that's coming, most likely, with the Bulls. And I don't think the Bucks have any challenge for the Bulls at all. And that's going to be bloodshed. That's going to be a war right there getting through that series. So, hey, the least scathingness you can take in the first round, the better, because you're going to take enough pounding in round 2 to make up for it. You are, for sure, because do not undercount the Chicago Bulls. That, to me, that's the Eastern Conference Finals in the second round of the playoffs.
Yes, that's something that's going to be really. I'm a little more worried about the Bulls than I even am about the Hawks. To take nothing away from the Hawks, but the Bulls are getting stronger. Of course, when you got a healthy Derrick Rose, that really makes all the difference with them, and just the way that Jimmy Butler the Bulls can really hurt you in a lot of ways with no one on the inside, and I think they're really going to have too much for the Bucks, and I think they're going to cause some problems for the Cavaliers. Hopefully, not too many problems.
What are your thoughts, man, real quick, while we look around the rest? We did a lot of this talking about the Cavaliers. We're talking about the Bulls. I think we both, by what we're saying, seem to be in the Bulls going to beat the Bucks. And again, I don't think that one. I looked at the East. I think it's chalk. 1, 2, and 3. I don't think they go more than 5 games in their series, to be honest with you. I don't think Milwaukee can even pull a 6th game out of the Bulls. Obviously, the Cavs there, same thing. Maybe, I'll tell you what, maybe the Nets take the Hawks to 6. The Nets maybe, but they back their way into the playoffs. I don't know. The Raptors and the Wiz, that should be a 6 or 7 game series. I think that one will be real competitive, but I just think Toronto wins. So I think 1, 2, 3, 4 come out of the first round. But man, how about the West, man? Have you looked at the matchups over there? To me, there's no-brainer winner in any one of the 4 first-round series.
Well, I think I would pretty much give the Warriors the nod, because the Warriors, I definitely see them beating the Pelicans, although it's going to be fun to watch what Anthony Davis
can do
against them.
I don't think it's a no-brainer is what I meant. I agree with you. Warriors are probably going to win that series, but it's not a no-brainer. I like the Pelicans. They're going to put some fight. I think it's going to be 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, I definitely see the Warriors winning that. When you think about it, winning 67 games. The best team was Jordan and Pippen, and Rodman won 72, and they only, fell 5 games short of that. So I know.
But you know what? The Cavs won 66 a couple years ago, brother. The Cavs won 66 in 2009, and they didn't even make it to the NBA Finals. And
there were some different circumstances as far as that's concerned. But, the thing that the Warriors have going for them is their incredible home field advantage. With 39-2 at Oracle Arena, and they just have everything going. So I think that I would pretty much, I wouldn't say it's going to be entirely easy, but I would pretty much put that in their column. But the other 3 series are really going to be some dogfights, especially, a couple especially, starting with, Houston and Dallas. Those 2 teams really hate each other, and they've got a lot of talent on each side, and that's going to be a brutal contest, I think.
Who do you think comes out? I agree with you. I think that's just going to be, talk about the Bulls and the Cavs in the second round, potentially. That's what you're looking at in the first round with some of these series like that one. Houston and Dallas, that's one that I think could go either way, although I think Houston's going to take it. But that one, to me, that's easily a 6 or 7 game series there.
Oh, I can definitely see that going 6 or 7. I would be surprised if it didn't. I think that Houston's going to win. A lot depends on, how much Dwight Howard's going to be able to contribute, coming off of his knee problems and stuff. If he can come back and even play 25 strong minutes a game, I think that, you definitely have to give the edge to the Rockets. Although it wouldn't be completely out of the realm of possibility to see the Mavs pull off the upset, but I got to go with the Rockets on that one.
I'm with you too, but you're like you said, Mavs have some experience. They've been there. You got Dirk. You got guys that have been through. And you know what? I like the Mavericks too. That one is right up there in my kind of upset alert in the back of my head. As much as part of me says Rockets should handle this, like you just said, don't count off the Mavericks, because in the back of my head I keep going, man, I could see if they find a way to grab a game that they shouldn't, perhaps early, then they could find a way to sneak out of there and steal that one. But there's a lot of bad blood. There's been players crossing over sides. There's general managers and owners that have talked. There's been a lot of stuff between those 2 teams over the last few years. So Houston and Dallas is a hell of a first-round matchup. Same thing with the Clippers and the Spurs, brother. That's a finals caliber matchup. When you look at that's the thing. Look at all these first-round matchups. Okay, Golden State, New Orleans, a little lesser, but the other 3, man, those are some great playoff series. Clippers, Spurs, here come the Spurs limping in at a 6 again. Just kind of, hey, we're the old guys here hanging out, and yet they end up in the finals every year. I'll tell you, I think it happens again. The Clippers, I don't think the Clippers get out of the first round.
Well, that's going to be tough because the Clippers do really have a lot. That's going to pretty much be the young lion versus old lion battle there with not just Chris Paul, but Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan has been really, really good. I think that it could definitely go either way. A lot of people are thinking that the Spurs are going to go all the way through. I'm going to actually say, and you could call it an upset, even though it is a 3 seed over a 6 seed, I think the Clippers are going to do it. I think they're going to, the young guys on the Clippers are going to overcome the old guard of the Spurs. And it could definitely go the other way. But I think that if you look at the long term as far as the Cavs go, you want the Spurs to have the toughest road possible, because they're gonna battle through the Clippers, and if they can beat the Clippers, they've got to face the winner of Houston and Dallas, and then they've got to go through the Warriors. So whoever comes out of the West is really going to go through quite a dogfight. Although I have to say the Warriors do have things a little bit easier. They've got to go through the Pelicans, and then they've got to play. If they beat the Pelicans, which I think they should, they got to play either Portland or Memphis. And those two teams, are very, very good, but they're both really banged up. And I think Memphis is going to win that one. But they're going to pretty much beat each other up for 6-7 games. I don't think whoever wins that is going to be able to match up with the Warriors. So it's strange, because if you want the Cavs to go all the way to the end and win the championship over the Spurs to sort of have that final redemption, that would be one thing. But if you want them to beat the Spurs, if you want them to play the Spurs, then I think that it's going to be a situation where the Spurs are really going to get hammered on the way there.
Well, I hear you. I'll tell you what, when you started to go to that other series that we're about to talk about, you mentioned the team that I think is a dark horse against the Warriors, and that's the Grizzlies in the second round of the playoffs, man. I like Memphis. I do. And I think that they could do some stuff, man. They could see there. I knew. Did I just get louder?
I don't think so.
I did. I just got louder, and I knew something was wrong here with the thing. Anyways, I've been having some technical difficulties in the studio today. All I did was I relocated a microphone, and there must be a short in the wire that I discovered as we were going on air this morning. So I keep hearing. I think I got it though now. So I apologize if you guys have had any trouble hearing me throughout the broadcast, but I definitely am much louder in my own ears now. The Grizzlies, going back to that, I think they knock off Portland. I think, and by the way, I have the Spurs in 7 over the Clippers. I think it's a full 7-game series. I think it's a possibility for all 3 of those series to go 7 games in the West, with the exception of Golden State and New Orleans. Just because I think New Orleans has a fight, I still got Golden State winning that one in 5, maybe 6 games, but most likely 5 for the Warriors. But all 3 of the other ones, I could see going to full 7. Houston, Dallas, Clippers and the Spurs, and Portland and Memphis. I think Memphis wins that. But then, as you said, looking at that second round, kind of like the Cavs and the Bulls, I think the Grizzlies will put up a hell of a fight against the Warriors.
I think they would. They've got, they've really been a tough team. I think they've kind of fallen off a little bit, from the pace they were at early on. But, the way Marc Gasol has played, and, Mike Conley, and, they've really sort of built up a sort of a grassroots thing with those two, and Zach Randolph, not really a whole lot of headlines. They've been like a quietly tough team, and, and they're all veterans too now. So, I think they could possibly, that's why I have them going over Portland, and I think that they could give some trouble to the Warriors, although, just the way the Warriors have played this year, you've got to consider them the favorite to at least go to the finals. I mean, it's just really hard to deny the incredible regular season that the Warriors have had.
But I can do that by denying you the incredible regular season that the Cavaliers had in 2009. They won the same number of games -1. They swept their first round. They swept their second round. And then they ran into a bad matchup buzzsaw, and they didn't even make it to the NBA Finals. They just went from nobody can stop us to out of the playoffs in the snap of a finger, and the whole city was stunned trying to figure out what happened. And to be honest with you, even though we're talking about different athletes, I know the Cavs still had LeBron James at that time, last I checked. So he's pretty comparable to the 2 guys that they've got over there running the show in Golden State right now. And that Cavs team just ran into the wrong buzzsaw after being unstoppable. And they had the 5th best record or whatever in NBA history, just like the Warriors just did. So the fact that we've seen it's so easy to go, man, we just saw it. Recent history right here in Cleveland. I like Golden State. I like them less in the playoffs than some people do. I'm not saying they're one and done, but I'm saying it's no guarantee that they make it out of the West, and I think they're going to have a hell of a struggle if they get to Memphis in the second round, and then getting into the finals, they'll have to go through, I think it's going to be the Spurs, but it could be Houston. It could be a lot of teams. It could be Clippers, Dallas, any of those. I'm just saying, there's a lot of teams that are more playoff tested than Golden State. There's a lot of teams that have different advantages, just as Golden State does. No guarantee. I don't think they make it through the West. I think that's going to be the biggest shock of this playoffs is that Golden State doesn't make it through the West.
Well, it certainly could happen. I mean, we've seen it happen, like you said. But
I'm going
to actually go with the Warriors to come out of the West because considering what they've done, and just like you said, the home court advantage that they've had, I think that's really going to help them all the way throughout. And it's not going to be easy. They're going to run into a lot more trouble than the Cavaliers or even the Bulls possibly might. But I think that the Warriors are going to come out of the West. Although, the Spurs, with their playoff experience, it doesn't matter what seed they are. It's just like they've got that kryptonite, and that kryptonite could burn the Warriors, and they could even burn the Cavs in the end simply because they're the Spurs.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And what was that home record for Golden State this year? Would they lose 2 games at home all
39
season?
39-2.
Yeah, they lost 2 games all season. I was just curious. I just pulled up here on Wikipedia. I went and pulled up that 66-win Cavaliers season here. I was curious. I was going to go pull up their splits and see how many they won at home. They went 39-2 at home that season.
Really? No way.
I knew that sounded familiar. Cavaliers lost 2 home games the entire season in 2009. They had an identical record minus 1 game. They were 66-16. The Golden State Warriors won 67 games. The Cavaliers went an astounding 39-2 at Quicken Loans Arena. Lost 2 games all season at home. No team had a home court advantage in that season like the Cavaliers did, and they did not make the NBA Finals. Keep that in mind when you talk about this Warriors team, because honest to God, I think 4 weeks from now, that's the surprise of the playoffs, is not who won, not this, that, and the other thing. It's that the Warriors don't even make it to the finals. I've just got a feeling that style that they play will buzzsaw the good matchups like the Cavs did. They'll wipe out the good matchups, but when they hit a bad matchup, they'll be done before they even know how to turn the tide.
Well, that's what we're going to have to watch out for. We'll see what happens. Again, you go through these teams that they have to go up against, the Mavericks and the Rockets and the Clippers. There's a lot of teams that bring up a lot of problems. And again, it could come down to who gives the best matchup, and that's why when you look at the Cavaliers and the strengths that they have, the diverse strengths that they have, that's what you try to do. You try to make yourself matchup proof so that you have at least a pretty good matchup with just about everybody. And so it's going to be a test to see if the Warriors can pass that test, and it's going to probably come a lot down to their front court. See if they can hold up their end of the bargain, because that Curry and Thompson are going to hold up theirs.
That's going to be the big part of it, Absolutely. Jeff Gorman, my man, doing some playoff previews there, and I agree. I don't know what just happened there, a little bit of a glitch. Are you still with me?
Yeah, I thought that we got cut off.
I'm telling you, man. I don't know what's happening today, but we're almost done, so it's cool. We're gonna hit the weekend, and I don't know, man. Maybe that's a bad sign. I hope not, but it starts this weekend. Tomorrow, playoffs begin. Sunday for the Cavaliers, it starts 3:30 on ABC. Hopefully, by the time you and I talk again, well, we'll be talking a little bit throughout the week next week, but by next Sunday, hopefully they can wrap this thing up. I'm telling you, I think it's 4-out for the Cavaliers here in the first round. I think the Cavaliers march this thing all the way through. Jeff Gorman, I think the Cavaliers are going to do it. It's going to bring the first championship in forever here to Cleveland, my friend. But you got to start it one game at a time and one series at a time. And it starts with the Boston Celtics. And JK hit it on the head. Kind of a cool circular thing here that it starts with Boston, the same place it ended with the infamous jersey getting taken off on the way off the floor in 2010.
And it would also be amazing if we ended up winning the championship, possibly over the Spurs, after losing to the Spurs, and the only time we did make it to the final.
That's what I'm saying. It's got to. It has to. The Spurs are the team that beat the Cavs and sent LeBron on his journey for self-awareness that led him to the back of the bus in Beijing, where him and Bosch and Wade cracked their plan to put their talents together. And then the Miami thing happened, and then it was the Spurs that broke Miami and cracked that big three and sent LeBron back home to Cleveland. It has to come back around to Cleveland and the Cavs. And if the NBA is fixed, like some people think, then that will definitely be the NBA final. It's like booking WrestleMania right there. You can just go ahead and book it now that's going to be the main event of this NBA playoffs. It's going to be instead of the Spurs against the evil empire, though. Now somehow it'll be two baby faces going at it, because LeBron's a good guy now that he came back home to Cleveland. So who do you root for there? It's going to be a lot of fun. The storylines. I always joke about if it was fixed, but that would be a hell of a story, and there would be a lot of eyes locked onto the TV set for that one. But you know what? That's 4 series from now. The Cavaliers have to win 4 games against the Celtics before we can even take the next step.
That's right. It's going to be a long road. It's not going to be any bit of a cakewalk, and a lot can happen, especially from an injury standpoint, talking about every single team. So I'm really just talking to you. I'm just really excited to sit down and start watching some of these games. It's really going to be some fun stuff.
See, talking to me gets you fired up, you guys. You're probably sitting at home ready to bust through a TV screen right now. Like, come on, let's play some basketball. Cannot wait. Plus, if you're looking for a place to watch it with people, I think the Cavs have 42 different official watch parties all over Cleveland. They've got a list on the website. They'll have the prize patrol out giving away stuff and tchotchkes and T-shirts and all kinds of things. And so it's going to be a blast. So whether you're watching it at the house, whether you're watching it at the Q, or whether you're watching it at one of these watch parties out there, Cleveland's going to be on fire come Sunday. And I circle back to enjoy every step of the way. Whether they win, whether they lose, no matter what. Because even if they win a championship, it is no guarantee that they do it again. So you really should enjoy every step along the way.
That's right. It's once in a lifetime. So far, it's been 0 times in my lifetime. I really thought we were going to do it in 2009, but I certainly don't mind waiting in this time.
Absolutely, man. We're 1. We're going for 1. Some people go, yeah, man, dynasty. I'm like 1. Give me 1 before you want to chart out all these words about the future. Just show me 1, baby. It starts this weekend. Jeff, you and I will talk Tuesday. Let's see. Indians will be through the Minnesota series here, getting ready. They'll be in the middle of taking on Chicago. We'll get a look at Carlos Carrasco and see how his first start since his near unbelievably crazy injuries, non-injury turned out to be. And we'll see the first start of the season for Danny Salazar. He got called up here to start Saturday's game. So when we talk Tribe on Tuesday, we'll have a couple of interesting things to look at there.
Sounds good. Mind if I throw out a quick plug before we go?
Absolutely not.
All right. Well,
go ahead, man. Of course you can, man.
Tomorrow night at the Alliance Armory, I'll be ring announcing for Main Event World League. The show is called Betrayal, and the big news is going to be a Royal Rumble-style match for the vacant North American title. And the question is, J-Rocc, are you going to come in there, or are you going to win it?
No. I'm in Erie, Pennsylvania tomorrow night. I have a first-time ever match. I'm pretty excited about this one. I'm wrestling Asylum. He's a really good young, he's I don't know how young, but he's a hell of a worker. He's a big, jacked-up monster, that's for sure. From the Great North. I believe he's from the border, Canada, something like that. I don't know, but Asylum, he's a big boy. I've never wrestled him, and I'll tell you what, 15 years in, it's rare to get in there with too many guys that I haven't done before. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Plus, two of my best students ever meet up as Ethan Carter III from Impact Wrestling takes on Big League John McChesney. And so there's going to be a hell of a show in Erie, and I'll be up there doing that. Cannot wait. First time ever getting in there with Asylum. Should be a lot of fun.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I wish I could watch your show and announce my show at the same time.
Well, there you go. But I'll tell you what, you tell those mule fellas down there to keep an eye out for me, because I got no problem making them give it up one time, man. I'll do it.
All right, man.
My man. Jeff, have a good one. Enjoy your wrestling show. Enjoy your Tribe and your Cavaliers basketball. We'll talk on Tuesday.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, man. Have a good one.
You got it. Jeff Gorman, he writes for IndiansandBrowns101.com. He's here on the Sports Fix twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. Always a great time when Jeff Gorman joins us. All right, guys, we're going to take a break, final break of the day of the week. When we come back, talk a little bit about the Monsters as a season unfortunately ends. Well, at least the playoffs end for the Monsters, but a new beginning for the Lake Erie Monsters. Something that's got me excited because I've been waiting for them to do this for a long time. It just made so much sense from a logistical standpoint. What am I talking about? I'll mention that when we come back. We'll set up the stage for the Indians as the Tribe is back after, man, not one, but 2 awful days off this week. I mean, 2 days off in the same week? Who does that, Major League Baseball? Who takes 2 days off in the same week? When we come back, the Indians are playing baseball tonight. I feel good. We'll preview the series with Minnesota and get you set for the weekend. Don't go anywhere. Final segment of The Fix coming up next.
And now, a very special announcement from the Sports Fix.
Black bears weigh between 200 and 500 pounds. Brown bears weigh between 300 and over 1,000 pounds. Black bears run away from you. Brown bears run at you. When attacked by a bear, simply lie still on the ground and cover your face and head with your hands. When the bear is finished batting you around and mauling you, contact the U.S. Forest Service.
And that was a message from the Sports Fix.
Guys, want to take just a second as we head into this break and remind you about the official business printing source of the Sports Fix, our friends at Signs and Ship. Signs and Ship, I'm telling you, Chris and Pam, they've taken care of me since day one, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're a small business that's already been established and you're looking to grow to that next level and expand your business, or perhaps you've got an idea that you just know is going to be a great business and you need to figure out how to brand it and how to promote it and put it out there, Signs and Ship is the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic designer. Business cards, signs, banners, yard signs, mobile advertising, anything you can think of that you need to promote your business, they've got it at Signs and Ship. The best thing about them, too, is each of their locations, whether it's the home base here in Elyria, Ohio that I work with, or their spots in Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania, it's all local sourced. Very important to me because we all understand that small business is the lifeblood of the community. So check them out, signsandship.com, or call Chris and Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
It's the Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Yeah. Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's fantasy sports superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
What's your fantasy?
No football? No problem at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. From their awesome Wing Mondays to every single Cavaliers and Buckeye Hoops games in full HD.
Kyrie split to D, goes inside, teardrops it home right down Euclid.
That's way up in there for two.
The excitement never stops. Every day of the week brings a different set of food and amazing drink specials.
And now,
fans, Harry Buffalo North Olmsted is the home for every UFC pay-per-view live on the big screens.
Let's get it all!
And let's not forget their mouth-watering trademark, the Bison Burger.
They sure are good.
Nobody does bison like Harry Buffalo. The perfect combination of healthy and delicious.
Hey there, eat up, y'all. You's as good church-going folk. Y'all deserve a little treat.
What are you waiting for? Get to Harry Buffalo, just outside Great Northern Mall today. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Hi, this is Dean Chenoth, head coach of Cleveland's Lake Erie Monsters, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix, final segment, wrapping things up for the week, you guys. J-Rocc back with you here, getting ready to put it to bed until Monday when we come back. Boy, man, we got a lot to get into. We're going to know how the playoffs began for the Cavaliers. We'll be getting ready to start a new series for the Cleveland Indians as they've got the Twins this weekend. Then they'll start Chicago on Monday. Dan Wismar will be in the house, got the Buckeyes spring game this weekend. We'll talk a little bit about how that went. Won't be talking about playoffs for the Lake Erie Monsters, you guys, as we get ready to put this show to bed. The Monsters' playoff hopes were put to bed last night, even though they've still got 2 games left in the season. Tonight, fans salute night down at Quicken Loans Arena. Get down there if you guys are Monsters fans. If you haven't caught a game this season, maybe get down there and check them out. Give them some love on Fan Salute Night. They're giving away the jerseys off the players' backs and all that kind of stuff, but they won't be playing after tomorrow. Tomorrow, final game, of course, tonight at home against Hamilton. Tomorrow on the road, same Hamilton team. Playoffs no longer an option for the Lake Erie Monsters. They needed to go 3 for 3 this weekend and have the Toronto Marlies lose all weekend long. It doesn't matter what Toronto does. Monsters last night fell 6-4 at the Q to the Grand Rapids Griffins, and that put an end to the Monsters' playoff chase as they are now 5 points back with only 4 possible points remaining. So 2 games left. I won't call them meaningless for the players or the fans, but they are meaningless when it comes to the playoffs for the Lake Erie Monsters. Now, that being said, bad end, perhaps good beginning coming up, though, because for the longest time, I think for the last couple Monsters, as it's looking, had a deal that ran through next season, and they agreed to end it short. So it could be as simple as the Monsters and the Avalanche just agreeing to drop the last year of that contract. Technically, the Monsters are still with the Avalanche through next year. But either way, it looks like the Monsters will become the new affiliate of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and it should, if they can get past the contractual things, start as soon as next season. And that will be very interesting because, as I said, there's so much affiliation, so much crossover in many different ways. I think that could be great for both teams, and I think it's a good thing. I think you can build up some fan travel back and forth. You'll get more player familiarity because instead of seeing guys halfway across the country and you're only seeing them when you're checking in on what the Avalanche are doing, you've got so much. I don't know. It'll create more familiarity with the players on both teams, and it should create more interest in both teams as well. So could be some good stuff, and it's definitely, the Monsters do a good job of attracting hockey fans. The Blue Jackets are probably hoping that they can get some of those Monsters fans willing to come on down to Columbus and check out some of those Blue Jackets games, especially once you start seeing because that's the other thing. Andrew Agozzino gets called up to the Avalanche. You're not exactly able to hop on a plane and go check out his first game in the NHL. But he gets called up to the Blue Jackets, and you can hop in the car and drive 2 hours and go check him out playing in the NHL. there's some good synergy there between the two. So hopefully Doug can fill in the blanks on this, but it looks like unless something goes wrong, the Columbus Blue Jackets' new top affiliate will be the Lake Erie Monsters, and the Monsters will drop their affiliation with the Colorado Avalanche. So we'll see what Doug's got to say about that coming up next week. Some good news for Monsters and Blue Jackets fans, both in Cleveland and in Columbus. Indians fans got some interesting news. Danny Salazar going to be called up here. He's going to start against the Twins on Saturday. We don't know for sure if it's a one-time deal, if he's going to stay in the rotation. They decided not. You know what? I kind of had a feeling a move was coming when Terry Francona was talking, and he was asked about Zach McAllister, and he did not say anything. He said, you know what? We're not sure about that. The minute he said that, you kind of knew they weren't good, because if they would have just went with McAllister. So as soon as I heard that, I'm like, huh. And I just didn't know if they were going to keep Salazar at AAA and maybe call up Chen and just try to get through a one-start deal. But they're going to go with Salazar here on this one. He had a good first start at AAA. He's 6 scoreless. He had 7 Ks, no walks, gave up 4 hits. He pitched for Columbus the other day. So we'll see what he does. First time up here this season. Maybe the Indians want to take a look and see if perhaps just that little call down, send down kind of jarred him a little bit. We'll see where he's at. All this needed because Carrasco has to get pushed off until Monday. So now the weekend lines up with Corey Kluber. He'll be out there tonight taking on Mike Pelfrey. First of 3 right-handers that the Indians will be facing this weekend. No lefties on the hill coming up for the Twins. Kluber and Pelfrey go at it tonight. 8:10 is your first pitch. Danny Salazar will be out there tomorrow. Phil Hughes, there's a tough one. Even though he's a tough luck 0 for 2 to start the season, Phil Hughes will be out there against Salazar. That should be a good Saturday game, 2:10 in the afternoon. I'll actually be listening to that one in the car, traveling up to Erie. Good road listening there for that game. And then House gets out on the mound with his 40.5 ERA. Because he was shelled so bad against Detroit. TJ House's ERA right now is 40.50. Obviously, that's a statistical anomaly that will go away, but it's 40.50 is his ERA right now. He averages 40 runs a game because of that bad 2-inning stint there against the Tigers. We'll see if he can knock that 40 ERA down for Saturday. 2:10 afternoon start. He takes on Trevor May. Last year, Tribe was 11-8 against the Twins. As we know, coming off a 1-4 homestand. They were swept by the Tigers. Got the last one to get the split with Chicago. As a team, coming out of the first 8 games of the season here, the Tribe's hitting .224 as a team and averaging 3.5 runs per game. Twins lost 6 of their first 7. Then they beat the Royals. The last 2 knocked off the Royals from that undefeated start of the season. Joe Mauer looking pretty good early on for the Twins. He's batting .281 with 4 RBIs. Twins lost 6 of 7, but they've won 2 straight heading into this one. So should be 3 good ones for the Indians here before they get to the White Sox on Monday. We'll get the return of Carlos Carrasco, and of course Dan Wismar will be here. We'll talk about this Indian series with the Twins. It'd be nice to talk about a couple of victories, and then Cavaliers start things on Sunday. All the playoffs begin this weekend. All game ones will happen either Saturday or Sunday. We'll have all that to talk about. Buckeyes with that spring game tomorrow. So a lot for Dan Wismar and I to get into on Monday. A lot for you to dig into this weekend. Starts tonight with the Tribe. All weekend long with the Tribe. Tomorrow, hey, those of you guys, a lot of you came out last month to the event in Erie, Pennsylvania and saw me wrestle. I can promise you tomorrow it's going to be even better than last month. We've got some. I'm rocking and rolling and feeling good. And the match that I'm going to have tomorrow night is going to be worth the price of admission, my brother. So come on out if you're feeling it. Come on out to Erie and check it out and enjoy some pro wrestling tomorrow night. Erie, Pennsylvania. John McChesney and Ethan Carter from Impact Wrestling will be going at it. I may have to get involved in that as well. And then, of course, on Sunday, Cavs Hoops, baby, from the Q live. Game 1 of the playoffs begins. And that's where we'll pick up on Monday, guys. Same bat time, same bat channel, live at noon across the Sports Fix Radio Network. Hey, those of you guys on Francisco Lindor watch, the Cubs, they got Chris Bryant coming up. Of course, there was a lot of talk in the spring when people were talking about Lindor. They were comparing him to Bryant, who was tearing it up in the spring, and they still sent him down. Remember last year, he had 43 home runs between double and triple A. He was the minor league player of the year. He had 9 home runs in the spring this season. He's got 4 so far in the minors in the first week and a half. And I think the Cubs have decided, you know what? If he's going to hit those home runs, might as well have him come hit those home runs up on the big league level. So, be interesting to see Chris Bryant getting ready to make his debut. As a matter of fact, just a few minutes from now, he'll be making his major league debut. How far longer behind is Francisco Lindor? I know many Indians fans are asking that question here when they see Bryant make his emergence. Johnny Manziel, speaking of emergence, he's publicly emerged for the first time as we get out of here. He issued a statement today. He apologized to the Browns, to their fans, and all of that in the city of Cleveland, and he's preaching all the right things. And matter of fact, I think this is right about second week of April, right before the draft, right before the workouts, comes the public statement where everything's going to be better and we're focused on football and it's all steps ahead. Hey, hopefully he continues to make progress. I'm not anticipating it transferring over to the football field, but if he can make some progress in his life, that'll work too, man. We'll figure out a quarterback somewhere. But Johnny Manziel says he's all focused, full steam ahead, and all that stuff, and we'll see. More power to him. But his first statement made today. We'll get into that here next week as well. And more, guys. Let's do it. Have some fun. And come on back tomorrow and holler at me live at noon on the Sports Fix. We love you, Cleveland. We'll see you next week, baby.